Hope TV, where you look and live, and on Hope FM, where you listen and live. Karibu sana. This is the Overflow show. It is where you live your life in abundance. They call me Favoured Frank, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are live at CITAM Kisumu. At CITAM Kisumu, Karibu sana. If you're around, you can join us tonight. And of course, we are set for a great time because we're going to be talking about addictions among the young people. And of course, if you got any question, any feedback, feel free to share with us. The number scrolling down at the screen, of course, we'll be so glad to interact and engage with you. All right, we have an amazing conversation lined up for you tonight, and I just encourage you to stay with us to the end of the program because there is something that you're gonna learn tonight. We have an amazing panel in studio, and I'll start from the farthest end. Just let us know your name, and of course, what do you do? Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Frank. Welcome to Kisumu.
Thank you so much.
My name is Pastor Florence Iminza here in Kisumu. I pastor the youth church and also help in the missions department.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for welcoming us in Kisumu.
Thank you.
And it's such a great place. Over to you.
Welcome to Kisumu.
Thank
Hope
you.
TV.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here. My name is Lynette Odidi-Yogo. I'm a counseling psychologist as well as an addiction professional, what we call ICAP 2. And I'm very happy that you're talking about this topic.
Great, awesome. I think just to dive straight into the conversation, beginning with you, Lynette, maybe let us know what is an addiction and how does it affect the young people?
In fact, I see that addiction is affecting the young people. And majority of the time, when we talk about addiction,
yes,
many of us are thinking about what we term as substance abuse.
Okay.
But before then, I'm going to just give you the description of addiction. Yeah?
Okay.
Addiction is said to be a relapsing chronic disease. So the first thing we need to note is that addiction is a disease.
Okay.
It's recognized by that because it has a seeking behavior, harmful seeking behavior and use, despite the harmful consequences.
Okay.
And now there's one of the psychologists called Gabor, who says that addiction is any behavior that you do repetitively,
Okay.
despite the fact that it's harmful, but you continue craving for it. So that is what we can term as addiction.
Okay, you know, many people rely on maybe drugs, substance abuse, they say maybe alcohol, maybe, cigarette. Most of the people never come to think of maybe some behaviors, So you say that anything that you do repetitively, that's an addiction.
Yes, including food.
Oh.
Did you ever know that food can be an addiction?
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Even food is chemical addiction. Yes.
All right. Now talk about maybe what's the effect? How does it affect the young people?
Young people are affected. And allow me to start by saying something sad that happened last year.
Okay.
Last year it was around November, I was called by the hospital and called that, I think it was around 2 a.m.
Yes.
And I was told that a car is waiting for you. We want you to come to the hospital. So when I went to the hospital, I found a 26-year-old, a young person.
Okay.
Who we knew he was dying. Yeah, even when I saw him. And why? Because he had taken poison.
Okay.
And the reason why, when I talked to him for those 2 hours before he passed, it was gambling. And he had gambled 300,000.
300,000.
His school fees. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So many young people are affected by addiction. Most of them are affected by alcohol abuse.
Okay.
And majority that I see in the western side are affected by bang.
Okay.
That is the marijuana. What is the other name? They call it several names. But weed.
Maybe the shisha and all that.
No, weed.
The weed,
itself.
okay.
Yes, they smoke a lot of weed. And what we see with people who smoke a lot of weed, what we call psychotic episodes, that means madness,
Yes.
usually is caused by weed.
Okay.
While alcohol abuse and substance abuse affect mainly the internal organs, and there are things that you don't see.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's come over to you, Pastor Florence. Many people say that addictions, maybe just something that began the other day. They don't pin maybe history to it. Or is there anywhere in the Bible where it's mentioned?
Yeah, we wouldn't say that it is a recent phenomenon per se.
Okay.
In the book of Genesis, as early those years, thousands and thousands of years, we learn of this family of Lot.
Yes.
This family had lived in what in the religious aspect we look at it as sin. And at some point, we're able to see the daughters of Lot conspire against their father, give him the drink, he becomes drunk, and they sleep with their father. Something quite abominable. So in the drunkenness of their father, we are able to see a generation that is born, Sodom and Gomorrah, in the Bible, as early as that particular time. So we have a clue that addiction, in terms of illicit brew like alcohol, was already there generations earlier than we can even imagine. So it's not a new phenomenon as we speak. It's something that has continued over generations and generations and generations.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Lynette, she's talking about, in the Bible, the times of Noah, talking about alcohol. Now talk about maybe the types of addictions that are so common among the young people and maybe how they affect these people.
Yes, as I was saying before, there are several types of addiction.
Yes.
And of course, we know the alcohol, the nicotine, the weed, heroin, and many other that has come. And right now, there's the vaping.
Yes.
I mean, young people are vaping. Those are all under substance abuse.
Okay.
Yes. And then under substance abuse, strangely enough, as I was telling you, there's also the food addiction.
Okay.
It's a chemical addiction.
Yes.
And we also find that there's the behavioral addictions. And behavioral addictions are things like gambling. There are things like these games, internet addiction.
Yes.
In fact, that is one thing that is also affecting the youth. The internet. People are not leaving their phones. And should I say it's the youth alone? No. It's also us adults who are affected by
too much on screen.
Yes, too much on screen. And then also the other addiction that I find, and especially it goes hand in hand with alcohol, is a sex addiction. And in fact, when we look at Kenya, our sex addiction is something we don't talk about.
Yeah.
But it breaks marriages.
People talk about in whispers.
Even breaking, yes. And then that also goes together with the porn addiction. I've met children as young as 9 years who I'm even dealing with an 11-year-old who's actually addicted to porn.
Okay.
Yes. So porn addiction is also rampant. And we don't talk about it.
Maybe let's just delve deeper a little bit on the issue of porn. Maybe why do you think the young people, maybe children as low as 11 years like you're mentioning, why do they find themselves, how do they find themselves in such addictions? Is there somebody sleeping on their job?
Yes. The government is sleeping on their jobs. I don't know whether, is it the CCK, the ones who look at what children are watching?
Yes.
It doesn't come exactly like, if I might quote this 11-year-old, he told me that, look here, I was watching my favorite cartoon on YouTube, and something popped.
Yes.
Then it said, click here. When he clicked, they kept on coming and coming and coming.
Okay.
And that is how he found himself now addicted to porn. So even as parents, we need to start looking, what is it that our children are watching? A cartoon is innocent.
Yes.
But is there a way that YouTube can be
And maybe
regularized?
filter the ads.
Yes, so that they can filter the ads.
Yes.
So I think maybe people need to start buying the YouTube where there's no ad. Because children, these are the areas where children start watching this thing.
Okay.
And then now you find as a young adult, they're addicted to watching porn. So sooner or later, they will have many cross addictions.
Okay.
Meaning you're addicted to alcohol, you're addicted to another drug, you're addicted to pornography and sex addiction as well. Yes.
All right. Pastor Florence, I don't know, with your interaction with the young people, maybe, I know you've been in such a ministry with the young people for quite some time. Maybe what are some of the common, from your end, common types of addictions that you've noticed?
I would say among the young people, I've seen substance abuse, specifically alcohol.
Okay.
Those who come through my office door to seek help have completely become so enslaved by alcohol, in the sense that they find themselves consuming alcohol as much as possible. Another way I'm able to see also it being reflected is in the sense of the gaming.
Okay.
And I think Lynette has mentioned that.
Yes.
I've also been able to see that young people are addicted in sexual behaviors.
Okay.
Those three are highly manifested
Right.
in terms of the addictions among the young people. Those who come through the door
Yes.
and are able to seek help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lynette, I don't know, what are some of these, we have some causes. I know many people who are in these addictions, they just never woke up and found themselves addicted. There are some causes, some triggers, maybe predisposing factors. Maybe, would you want to mention some of these things?
Yes. But before I go to the causes of addiction,
Yes.
let us look at what we call progression of use.
Okay.
You know, it usually starts by, why don't we taste?
Uh-huh.
So young people go and taste. And the other thing that I've noticed when we are looking at progression of use is that young people, majority of the time, are taught by either an older sibling who learnt it from seeing the parents or seeing a relative staying with them. And they start by, let us taste. Then before then, it is, I'm a social drinker. Then from social drinking, you become a problematic user, meaning you keep on using the alcohol, but you are those ones of you use it from Friday to Sunday, and Monday to Thursday, you're good.
Yeah.
You can work. Then there are these ones who are predisposed, and they get addicted after that.
Okay.
So when I come back to your question,
Yes.
what are the leading causes? Genetics.
Okay.
I usually tell young people that when you look at your family lineage and you've seen one or two people who've dealt with addiction, don't even try.
Okay.
You will remain there. That is why you see one person can be drinking for years, but they never get addicted.
Okay.
They have problematic use. And there's one person who the first day
Yes.
they took it, they remained there in an active addiction. So some of the things that bring it is genetics. The other things that I've noticed that young people have is another mental disorder. There are people who are trying to treat insomnia. That means they're not able to sleep
Yes.
with alcohol. You'll hear someone telling you that I wasn't able to sleep, I took some alcohol and it helps me sleep. And depression.
Okay.
Depression can also make someone go drinking. Then there's anxiety.
Yes.
Anxiety can also be a cause.
Okay.
And then there are these other major mental illnesses like schizophrenia,
Yes.
the borderline personality, and bipolar, that people also try treating themselves by using alcohol or also using, the other thing we didn't talk about is nowadays there are prescription drugs
Yes.
that people actually get addicted to.
Okay. All right. Pastor Florence, I don't know, talking about the causes of addictions, how does social media come into play? Because I know peer pressure, social media has really had an impact on the young people. How do you think maybe this plays out?
There is no generation in our time
Yes.
that has had such an exposure to the social media like ours.
Okay.
And this specifically touching on the young people. If you can imagine that within a small gadget like a phone,
Yes.
which is highly accessible today to the young people, it has the whole world in it. And all the content that comes through that particular gadget is accessible to the young people. That means that every other behavior can infiltrate quickly into the mind and the behavior of our youth. And so the social media and its content and its accessibility and the fact that the young people are highly, highly connected to the social media is contributing quite a lot in terms of the addiction. And if you look at the social media per se, you would want to imagine that the fact that the young people also have a lot of time on it. I think for me as a person who is mature, my time is so limited and squeezed. But the young people have a lot of time with it. And that time, how is it being spent? It's on the social media, the consumption of what comes in. She has mentioned pornography. And that is one of the gateway, I would say, that the young people are able to see what is happening, something that could not be easily found in newspapers or anywhere else. The social media is an area that is wild. It is difficult to tame. It is difficult, if you ask me, to regulate the social media. We hope that we can get some way we can do that anyhow. If that can help our young people. I think for some of the parents, what they have tried to do is try to put in the gadgets and the softwares that can control. But still, we have intelligent minds. They can get into that and change everything, or get into a neighborhood and still find these controls have not been put in place. And therefore, the social media really is an issue.
So, Lynette, talking about maybe one addiction, maybe one behavior leading to a different kind of addiction. For instance, somebody trying to cure stress with alcohol. Does it really work, or is it just something temporary?
Now, as we know, you will take it. It is temporary. After a few hours, it's gone. But the problems you find after that are even more. Because, you know, the moment you take alcohol or any other drug, there'll be withdrawal symptoms. So it is not something that works. It is something that people think work, and they imagine it works, but it never works. And in the long run, it is a problem for you when you are taking it to forget that problem.
All right. And talking about the same issue of maybe one thing leading to another, you talked initially about maybe behavioral activities that end up being addictions. Now, how do these two intertwine? Because talking about behavior, does it really mean addictions are only behavioral, or they are also psychological and emotional? How do the three work together?
As we said, addiction is a disease, meaning that, and it's a chronic relapsing disease. So when you say something is chronic, it means it's long-lasting. Meaning that when you're addicted, you might never be cured. Just the very same way, if you have high blood pressure, you'll never be cured. So anybody who is even stopped drinking, we usually say they're in recovery. And you're in recovery forever. That means it's a disease. It changes the structure of the brain. When you do the MRI of the brain, you will see that an addicted brain, the structure has changed. So that makes it, qualifies it to be a disease. And then also, when we talk about chronic, meaning that it is long-lasting. And when we talk about relapsing, meaning that it changes. So addiction can start as a behavior, but it goes into a disease, or the disease can lead into a behavior.
All right.
So it affects you emotionally, psychologically, and physically.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, let's come to the spiritual perspective of addictions. How do these addictions affect one's relationship with God? Because I know there is a place where addictions play when it comes to relationship with God. How does that work out?
First, to begin with, addiction is manifestation of sin.
Okay.
And sin, just to make it in a more simplistic way of description,
Yes.
is disobedience to God. In sinning, in disobeying God, there's a sense in which people get addicted.
Okay.
If you read Deuteronomy from chapter 5
Yes.
to chapter 11, the concentration is on people worshiping God. And worshiping God, it means there is no idol that comes in between you and God. And therefore, if we have any behavior, any substance that somebody adores that much,
Yes.
somebody is somehow connected to it that much, it becomes an idol.
Okay.
And that means that there is a strained relationship between an individual and their creator from the biblical perspective. It means these persons who are addicted, they are separated from God.
Okay.
In that sense, they are in bondage. They are enslaved
Yes.
by that particular behavior or that particular substance, whether it is sex.
So in
it
other words,
becomes an idol.
It's an idol worship.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
They cannot do without it. It is one that moves them. It's the one that pushes them. Because without it,
Yes.
it means life becomes meaningless.
Okay.
And therefore, God is not at the center, but something else is propelling an individual's life.
All right. Okay, let's talk about, Lynette, what happens in the brain when somebody begins to, get addicted to something. When somebody tries to do some things repeated times, what happens in their brain?
Okay. First and foremost, I want to start from the very basic of when we are talking about the science of addiction.
Yes.
Let us begin from the beginning.
Okay.
When you eat, you keep on eating
Yes.
because it's a life-sustaining something you do.
Yes.
We drink water because of that. So in our brains, there's the part of our brain that is gives you a reward. We call it the reward system of
Yes.
the brain. It's found in the amygdala.
Okay.
So this part of the brain tells you that what I'm doing is life-sustaining, and it produces the pleasure hormone, the pleasure hormone called dopamine.
Yes.
So when you are addicted, the first time you take an alcohol or you engage in a behavior, there's a release of dopamine.
Okay.
And there's a certain high you feel. So our brain, because you felt that high,
Yes.
would always want you to feel that high.
Excited.
Yes, that excitement. Hey, this is good. Hey, this food is nice.
Yes.
So we want to eat it again.
Yes.
So that is the very same science that happens in any addiction, be it behavioral, be it substance. So people are always seeking that high. But now what happens is the dopamine release. There's a certain amount of dopamine that is released every time you do something good.
Yes.
And that makes you feel happy. But now when you take a substance or a behavior, the release of dopamine is too much. That is why people get excited.
Yes.
Then after some time, the body will want to reuptake those dopamine, the pleasure hormone. That is why there's withdrawal.
All right.
Because all the pleasure hormones have been taken, your body is like, now we are no longer happy.
Yes.
What is happening? Then you'll go seeking it again. That is why it becomes a never-ending loop. You finish, you go into withdrawal, you want it again.
Yes.
That is why people toe a lock.
All right.
Then at a certain point, your body cannot do without it.
Okay.
Yes.
So that gives an explanation as to why maybe somebody, if I can use an example of tea,
Yes.
somebody taking tea repeatedly to the point, if they fail to take a cup or two, they have a headache. That's what normally happens, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about Pastor Florence. What really happens? Because somebody say that I'm trying to leave this behavior. This addiction has taken hold of me, a grip on me, and there is nothing much I can do. What does the Bible say about overcoming addictions?
In the sense that it looks like it's difficult for the person who is addicted, from God, there's nothing that is impossible.
Okay.
Once somebody realizes that they're struggling with addiction, there's need to know that the struggle is not within an individual. By calling on God, trusting in the transforming power of God, they can come out of it.
Okay.
And the fact that within the Christian teaching, we say this, that for us to be saved, it doesn't take our energy.
Yes.
It does not take our good works. It takes the grace of God.
All right.
In the sense that if the people who are addicted come to the realization that they need help,
Yes.
they can turn to God in faith and with the assistance of the spiritual sources to be able to come out of the addiction.
Okay.
Because then the struggle is located in the supreme being,
All right.
the one who is able to turn things around. By grace we are saved. By grace we break the chains that hold us in bondage.
Okay.
By grace we are able to receive salvation from God.
All right.
And therefore for us within the pastoral teams, we are providing these resources,
Yes.
telling the people who are addicted that we can walk the journey together.
Yes.
Trusting that in faith we can grow out of addictions, these committed behavioral things that
Yes.
we do every other time,
Okay.
that we can turn to God. The beginning point,
Yes.
the author, the finisher of our own lives. When we turn to God, He can change and make that which looks ugly beautiful again.
All right.
That life that is destroyed can turn out to be beautiful again.
Okay.
It has happened and it can happen.
So there is hope.
There is hope.
All right. I can see some more questions, feedback coming in. And if you just got any question, any feedback, you can feel free to share with us. The number scrolling down at the screen. And of course, you can get in touch at Hope FM Live, at Favoured Frank, at Hope TV Kenya. And of course, we'll be so glad to engage with you. I can see Samuel Mwangi saying that this is a giant in my life. What happens when I stopped some addiction and nikarudi tena? They stopped, but after some time, they were back into it. What normally happens in such a case?
Okay. I'll still go back to the sense of addiction. And I agree with Pastor that sometimes the will can help and praying can help. But I think just like the way in church when someone has malaria,
Yes.
you're told to go and see a doctor. I think that's the very same thing that needs to happen with addiction.
Okay.
And why am I saying that? When you are addicted, many things are affected.
All right.
There are many hormones in your body that addiction affects. There are many internal organs that are affected by addiction.
Okay.
So when all that happens, and I'll also be answering his question as I'm going on, when all that happens, you
Yes.
find that someone will today tell you that, oh yes, I have stopped. For a month, a week, 2 weeks, they have stopped.
Okay.
But remember,
Yes.
it's a chronic disease. And it's relapsing.
You had talked of the recovery mode.
Yes, it is chronic and relapsing.
Yes.
That means if we treat addiction from the outside,
Yes.
that means someone says that, okay, I have stopped.
Okay.
Whatever is still happening inside, remember we talked about the feel-good hormones and all these other hormones that are coming in,
Okay.
they will not be solved. So when you go for treatment,
Yes.
we start by treating you inside and out.
All right.
Yes. So treatment has to happen by, will we have the chemical balancing? Because there's already a chemical imbalance.
All right.
There's already hormonal imbalance. So we start by balancing these hormones.
Okay.
Then even if we are doing therapy, we'll always start doing therapy after we have done what we call detoxification, which I think we'll talk about later.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
We have TMO saying that I was in an addiction for 15 years. I used to smoke, bang, mirror, alcohol. In October 2023, niliacha kila kitu. Now I am fresh. And I thank God for giving me a good life. And until now, I am praising him. This is Moses Teya from Laikipia. And of course, it's such a great testimony right there. And we have one more here, Dennis Atundo. Thank you so much for this. Davis from Kajiado. Thank you so much for for tuning in tonight on the Overflow show. We have Rosie from, didn't give me your location, but thank you so much for the feedback. You see powerful conversation, learning a lot. Pastor Abel from Bungoma, thank you so much for tuning in tonight as well. Let's talk about the effect of addictions to one's self-esteem. What normally happens? Because when somebody gets into something, I know there is the ripple effect to their self-esteem. What normally happens in such a case?
When we talk about addiction and self-esteem,
Yes.
addiction does not only affect your self-esteem. I want to go back to what the pastor said about, is it the Lot's daughter? Yes. And the fact that they were able to make their father drink and their father would have sex with them. Yes. So what is it that happened? It is because when you're addicted, that part of your brain
Yes.
that reasons that this is right, this is wrong, is affected.
Okay.
So you see someone who is addicted maybe to substance, let's talk about substance, will keep on doing this. And then their behavior that they'll be having.
Yes.
The moment they try being sober, they're like, is it me who did this? Then you know now they start feeling ashamed
Yes.
and embarrassed. Then that helplessness of, I cannot manage to deal with this, you know, as Pastor said, that something else is controlling you, will always work on their self-esteem.
Yes.
So self-esteem starts from there when someone is addicted. But sometimes you find that people started going into alcohol because they had self-esteem issues. We also have cases like that. The people who say, let me go and drink, then I'll show them.
Yes.
Yes. That is someone who already has a self-esteem issue.
Okay.
That mostly is caused by maybe another mental health issue.
Okay.
So it is a very complicated thing. So when someone comes for treatment, we try asking you about before,
Yes.
within, and after. Yes.
All right.
Because that way you are going to find out, was he trying to treat self-esteem by drinking alcohol, or has self-esteem come because of the alcohol issue?
All right.
Yes.
You know, I've heard many times mtu akisema, let me go take alcohol, and then I'll tell them the truth. It's a self-esteem issue. Okay, Pastor Florence, I don't know how can these young men struggling with an addiction out there strengthen their faith, because once they're trying to come out of this addiction, this struggle, there is a temptation maybe to draw back. How can they strengthen their faith in God in the healing process?
Thank you. One of the struggles that people who are addicted go through that I have also noticed, it's because they sometimes find themselves isolated in the society.
Yes.
And so part of the encouragement is for them to come into supportive groups within the church, and in journeying together with the other people, they tend to find strength in the support groups. In those support groups, would have some routine activities that would be able to engage them productively, if I may say. And through that, they are able to find their daily routine is altered, and they find their focus is drawn away from perhaps the addictives to a more constructive life. And in that case, as we do that, particularly, for example, in the church,
Yes.
we would provide opportunities for Bible study groups where we introduce people to the Word of God
Yes.
that is able to illuminate their hearts, and they are brought back to a way of life where they begin to fear God, they begin to grow in faith. And the aspect of the deposit of faith within an individual
Yes.
is something that everyone should cherish.
All right.
Because once you have faith, even if you're sick in the hospital,
Yes.
it begins with faith.
Yeah, sure.
It begins that I can get well. Yes, I'm taking this medication, and I believe I will get well.
Okay.
So in working through faith,
Yes.
and developing and being strengthened in faith, it is possible to come out.
All right. Let's talk about this young person in church, maybe serving in the praise and worship team, or even serving just a member of the church. They were once in an addiction, but by bad luck, they fell again from faith, got into the same addiction. How should the church handle such a person? Because I know it's something that can really push somebody outside the church totally if they were not well handled. How can the church intervene in such a scenario?
In that case, there must be a way in which they are loved by all means.
Not being
And I
chased from
think,
church, right?
Yeah, there's no place for judgment
Yes.
within the church. 70 times, the church should be able to look for restorative ways to bring back. Jesus leaves the 99
Yes.
to go and bring one sheep. That means how dear one soul can be. We can't afford to lose one.
All right.
And therefore, the church needs to be that very supportive group, that supportive system for any individual. However much they relapse, however much they fall, however much they may not be able to be reflecting the quick recovery,
Yes.
there must be a way in which the church is putting in place support systems
All right,
for such
all right.
like people.
Thank you. We have some more feedback coming in. If you got any question, feel free to share with us. Number scrolling down at the screen. And of course, for those with us in the church, you can as well share your questions. I'll be opening up the floor in a short while. We have Patrobo Juang saying, this is truly a conversation we cannot afford to be silent about. Nothing is impossible with God. Addictions break in the name of Jesus. We have Steve Irungu saying that I had to admit, please help me to get rid of the monster called pornography because it degrades women, so help me God. How can people deal with people struggling with pornography, and how can one successfully come out of this? What are some of the things maybe they can begin to do to come out of pornography?
When we're talking about, that is a behavioral addiction.
Yes.
When we're talking about behavior, we need to know that one of the leading factor of a behavior is your thoughts.
Okay.
Yes. Your thought, the way you think will affect how you feel, and then it will affect your behavior.
All right.
So for example, if someone has pornography, then his thoughts has to get away from pornography. For example, if I know that this gadget is what gives me pornography,
Yes.
so I need to start looking at other things and occupying myself
Yes.
with other thoughts and other recreational activities that does not involve pornography. And every time someone finds themselves thinking about it, they need to replace it with some 2 or 3 positive thoughts.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And that way, eventually, you'll find that you think about it less and less, and you will want to engage in it less and less.
Okay.
So it starts with what you constantly think about.
You feed the mind.
Yes, what you feed your mind
Okay.
with.
All right. There is one here saying that this is a Favoured Hillary saying, hello, Favoured Frank, following this great discussion from Nairobi, and I'm learning a lot. Say hi to Pastor Florence. We have this Steve again saying, I rededicate my life to Jesus Christ and everything that I do. So help me, God.
Amen.
In Jesus' name. And Pastor Florence, let's now come to the point of the people who've struggled in church for yet a long time. They seek help, but still, get back to the same behavioral activities. Somebody is in church is maybe addicted to alcohol, but they're still in church. How would you encourage such a person, and how would you talk to maybe people around such a person, maybe church members and all that?
Yeah. I would say this. Within the community of the church remains the very center place that they should stick. I want to say, keep coming.
Yes.
Keep coming in the church. Never ever think about leaving church, because you never know your day of visitation.
Yes.
It is highly possible, even as we struggle through sin ourselves,
Yes.
that every other time God is working his way through us. And he is able to lead us every other step, slowly,
Yes.
slowly.
Okay.
Because we are told that we should continue to work on our salvation with fear and trembling. And I will tell you, no one in the church has arrived.
Yes.
Not even a single person. People struggle with many things. It's not you alone. It's only that some of us, the sins are very visible.
Okay.
And some of us, they're so hidden. Yet, God is in the process of making us. All
right.
All of us.
Thank you. Lynette, she's talking about hidden struggles, hidden addictions. Somebody said that it is better or if we can see what you're struggling with, like a drunkard, you'll see and tell them, we can see when the issue is spiraling down. When it's getting worse, we'll tell you, my brother, please take care. But now there's somebody struggling with something we cannot see. Like they hide somewhere in the bedroom and they can do their stuff. They're struggling. Now, how can such a people get help? Somebody who's hidden.
The first way to start getting help is acknowledging that, yes, I have a problem.
Okay.
And then talking it out and asking that, I have this problem, how do I solve it?
Yes.
Sometimes talking about something is what begins to set you free. It is said that honesty sets you free, and true it does.
Okay.
So being honest with yourself,
Yes.
the fact that I am struggling with this, can I get help? Sometimes maybe they would be afraid of going to church because they think,
They'll be judged.
many people think that when they go to church,
Yes.
they'll be judged. But that is why psychiatrists,
Yes.
psychologists, and counselors are there. We are there to non-judgmentally guide you back to where you're supposed to be.
Okay.
So the fact that you are able to acknowledge the fact that, yes, I have a problem and seek help
Yes.
will be able to at least start helping you out.
Okay, let's come to trauma. How does trauma come into play? How does it lead somebody to get into an addictive behavior?
Yes.
I
think
is
that
trauma a factor to consider?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Trauma is usually one of the factors that we consider. When I was talking about mental diseases,
Yes.
there's what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. It has always been found that people who are having post-traumatic stress disorder can easily get into addictions
Okay.
as another
Yes.
co-occurring disorder. So when, and I want to give an example that you find that sometimes someone was brought up by a father or a mother
Yes.
who was addicted, and they really hated it, still goes back to that addiction.
Okay. Okay.
Why? Because from trauma, they learned a behavior. And when they are not able to cope, they fall back to that behavior, whether it is good or it is bad, because that is all they learned.
Yes.
So trauma, yes, it's a contributing factor
Okay.
to having people get into behavioral addiction. But you find that people who are addicted because of a trauma comes out of addiction more easily than someone whose genetics is wired with addiction.
Okay.
Because once the trauma is resolved, it is easier for them to stop drinking.
All right.
Because what made them drink or what made them take the drug has been resolved. Yes.
So this calls in for proper parenting.
Yes, it calls in for proper parenting. It also calls in for the church to come in and we look at children. You know, sometimes people think that only children from the poor community
Yes.
or the middle class have problems.
Yeah.
But nowadays we have something we call the affluent traumas.
Yes.
Where children are going through things they're not talking about. And yes, they're traumatized and they're not able to speak out.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Mercy Kareha. You say, I'm loving this conversation. It's nice to have people with the heart for the youth coming out to enlighten us. Thank you so much for the feedback. We have one more here. This is Flemings Mosoli. There is power in salvation. I'm living proof since I received Christ in 2023. This is 3rd March. My daily routine of reading the Bible and prayer, going to church more opened up my heart to spiritual truth, and my mind has been renewed through Jesus Christ and truth from the scripture. That is just a great testimony right there. You say your encouragement is with faith of a mustard seed we shall move mountains. Jesus heals everything. He says he's overcoming day by day. Thank you so much, Flemings. God bless you. Okay, let's talk about Pastor Florence, restoration. Because is it really possible for somebody to come out of a struggle fully and begin a new journey with Christ?
Thank you. This is where spirituality and the church gives what I would call the turning point.
Okay.
Because at that, we know that restoration is very possible. Even for those people who feel that their sins are as red, it can be washed clean before God.
Yes.
Somebody who has felt like they have been addicted even in sexual behavior. I have had testimonies of people who were errant sexually, and they returned as if they were virgins.
Okay.
That happens.
All right.
Because somebody stopped that behavior completely, and they become new in their lifestyle.
Okay.
It is possible. That restoration is possible within the teachings of the church and also in the lives of the people.
All right. I think we'll come to a point of how does that begin? How does that start?
Yeah.
To the point of restoration. We'll come to that.
Yeah.
Now, talking about the psychological and maybe mental perspective, can somebody recover from the effects of addiction struggles?
Yes. Someone can, and people have.
All right.
And I'm praying that people still will. So one of the things that we encourage is you need to connect with spirituality.
Okay.
You need to connect with God.
All right.
Whichever way you look at it. So that one, even in our counseling sessions,
Yes.
we'd always tell someone that you need to connect with your God. And addiction can be treated.
Okay.
Yes. It's only that because it's chronic, it is complicated, but addiction can be treated.
Okay.
So as I was saying that when we are treating addiction, it is highly recommended that someone starts with treating the inside.
Okay.
The very same way if you had malaria, you'll start by taking the medication. So there are medications that you're given when we are doing detox that takes care of the craving so that you no longer crave for it.
All right.
Then there are medications that you take and they balance the hormones and the chemicals of your body so that you do not have that feeling of I'm not happy. So you have enough happiness, you have enough melatonin. That means you have enough sleep hormones.
Yes.
You have enough happy hormones. Yes. So you see, once that happens,
Yes.
then you are able to make decisions to do these other things.
Okay.
So treatment starts with detox. Then now we do counseling. We refer you to church or whichever way you are learning. And then we refer you to other support groups.
All right.
Even pastor said that support groups are there. And there are some churches that I know that actually hold AA meetings for people who are addicted, especially the alcohol ones.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
So support group is a very good thing. And then we also, when we're doing counseling, we also get the family. Yes. Because, if someone is trying to work on addiction,
Yes.
and the families are reminding them of what happened in the past,
Yes.
then they'll most likely go back because they say, after all, it doesn't make any sense. Yes. So, we also support the family
Yes.
to support them.
All right. I think talking about the place of family and support, I'd want you to talk, before we come over to you, Pastor Florence, Lynette, talk about how family, because I know there's a family out here that's struggling. They have a brother or a sister who's struggling with an addiction. How can a family offer support to such a person?
Yeah, that is a very good question, Frank.
Yes.
One of the things that we find, alcoholism and substance use,
Yes.
it is a family disease.
Okay.
It is not a disease for one person. Because here will be a mother who's having high blood pressure. Here is a father who could be having high blood pressure. Why?
Yes.
Because my son or daughter is drinking. So we support the family, and we support on how do we react to this person.
Yes.
Because sometimes you find that there's always conflict also whenever there's addiction involved.
Okay.
One party will be supporting, the other party will be
Yes.
not supporting, and people are blaming each other. So we bring them to a point where they agree. For example, if I know my brother is drinking, instead of me giving him money to go and buy food,
Yes.
we all agree as siblings, mother and father, that let's buy him food.
All right.
And we make sure that food is in the house. But you'll find there's that one brother who will be saying, he needs some money. That's an enabler.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
So we have to work on enablers, and we also have to work on these other family members who seems to be too critical.
Okay.
And hurling abuses at this person. So families also need to be supported to support the person who's having an addiction.
All right. Of course, if you need any counseling services, they're offered at CITAM for free. You can reach out to our number, that's 0708, that's 222-323. You can write to us and we'll give you more directions. You can walk to any CITAM church near you and you'll get the necessary help. Pastor Florence, how can family and friends support somebody who's struggling with an addiction?
Thank you. For a family, the church first and foremost is made up of families. And surprisingly, sometimes you find addiction
Yes.
happens so much among individuals who are coming from broken families. And the church then acts as a family to these particular individuals.
Okay.
In this sense, within the church, that particular individual can find resources, both materially and also spiritually.
Yes.
In that sense, in building that particular individual to get some wholeness, because there's some sense in which there's some brokenness within this individual.
Okay.
And in diagnosing that, therefore, these particular families at more natural level, they are enhanced.
Okay.
So that that particular individual finds space, and like Lynette has said, providing that support. But in the event also that is broken,
Yes.
these individuals are encouraged to find families within the church,
All right.
which goes beyond bloodlines
All right.
and kinship. And therefore, that would be a guide for most of the people who want to come out of this, so that they are finding that particular support,
All right.
both materially, emotionally, spiritually, all that can be found within the church family.
All right.
Yeah.
I can see our time is pretty much well spent, because I can see we only have 4 minutes to wrap up the conversation. And I want to begin over with Pastor Florence. Maybe your closing remarks, as maybe before that, I don't know if we have got a question from the audience right here, maybe one or two. We can pick from a gentleman and a lady, and then we'll call it a night. Maybe let's start over with, we have a gentleman right there. if you can pick just this microphone, just pick this microphone. You can hand it to the young man. Yeah, so that we just take 2 questions, or at most 3, and then we call it a night. Yeah, karibu sana. Give us your name, where you come from, and go ahead to ask your question.
All right. My name is Javan. Thank you for the opportunity. I've learned a lot. I just have a follow-up to maybe get some clarification on. Lynette, you did say that there's something that happens to the brain of an addicted person. I've had stories where it shrinks. So in the course of recovery, does the brain ever fully grow back, that is regenerate? What's the state of it during the recovery process? And then my second question would be, if you'd allow, how can people who are genetically predisposed to certain conditions, and maybe for one reason or another they found themselves already in the pattern, how can they then work to fully, or rather, can they ever fully escape those patterns? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I think we can just handle that on the go. You can just respond to his question.
Yes, when we're talking about the brain and how it is affected, yes, body regenerates itself. Each and every day when we sleep, that is why sleep is very important. And one of the things that alcohol interferes with is the sleep. So once you are sleeping well, you're eating well, doing exercises, don't forget. Exercises have a way of balancing the chemicals and hormones of the body. So when you do exercises and you start living right, the possibility of you living a full life, despite the fact that it's genetically coming, is very high. But if you know you are genetically predisposed, alcohol or any addiction is not for you.
All right.
You have to let it go. So you can seek help, you can seek therapy, you can also seek pastoral therapy, but whichever way, you need to get help.
All right.
But remember, if you do things right, you eat right, and you're given the correct medication, then it will help you regenerate.
All right.
Yes.
Great. I want to believe the young man, you're satisfied. And we had a lady right there. Your name?
Hi. Thank you for the talk. It's so enlightening. So my name is Velma, and my question goes to Pastor Florence. I was asking, is someone that is truly saved able to, how do I put it? When someone is truly saved, is it okay for them to struggle with addiction? And how do we balance grace and accountability in this sense?
All right. I think Pastor Florence, you can just respond to that on the go. Do you have any other question? Any other question? We can pick one more or 2. But before that, we can have Pastor Florence respond to the lady's question.
Thank you, Velma. I strongly say that as Christians and as believers, we struggle with many things. And for us to say that we have arrived, I think I would say we are in heaven. Until we are in heaven, we have arrived. The struggles are there. The thing is, you continue to work on your salvation in the way that you keep improving. Accept that you have this problem, and let's work on it together. Balancing accountability and grace.
Yes.
It's possible to balance accountability and grace. God gives us the grace to be accountable as well. By the fact that somebody can come out and say, look, friends, I'm struggling with this.
Yes.
It means they are accountable.
All right, all right.
And they know the grace is there. It can be able to support us.
All right. Thank you so much. Tom, my producer is telling me that we don't have time. So I'd really wish my brother you'll just share your question with the team, after which maybe Pastor Florence can respond to, or even our specialist can respond to in due time. Thank you so much, Lynette, a counseling psychologist. Thank you so much for creating time tonight. And thank you so much, Pastor Florence. Just with final remarks as we come to the end of the program.
Thank you. I would like to appreciate the Overflow program for the impact it's bringing to most of the people around.
Yes.
And we pray that addiction is overcome.
Amen.
In the lives of God's people. Amen.
All right. Over to you, Lynette. Final remarks.
Thank you for having me here. It's such a pleasure to talk about this. And I know that in our profession, we need to talk more about this. I think one of the things that needs to be done is we need to send this knowledge. And the many times that it can be done, the better for people.
Yes.
And yes, I think recovery is possible.
Yes.
So let's never give up. Let's always work. Let's always talk. Let's always acknowledge. And we need to have faith and the hope that recovery is possible.
All right. Great. Thank you so much. What she's simply saying, let's keep talking, because when we keep quiet, things will go bad. We need to keep the conversation going, create a safe space in church, at the family level, at school, for these conversations about addictions. Thank you so much, panelists, tonight. See you next time, God willing. And of course, thank you so much if you joined us at home. God bless you so much. And of course, those who made it to CITAM Kisumu, God bless you so much. Until next time, bye-bye. My name is Favoured Frank. I was directed otherwise. Okay, you can ask.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for the engaging session. My name is Justin Zawadi. And
Your name, please? Your name is?
Justin Zawadi.
Oh, Justin Zawadi. Yes, Justin.
Yes, so what I wanted to ask is, what is the difference between obsession and addiction? Because a good number of the times, sometimes you're told when you want to focus on something, sometimes you may be addicted to something which doesn't take away much from you. In fact, you may be addicted or obsessed to something which is actually beneficial to you, but at the same time it takes away some productive time that may be put on other important things as well. So how do we discern between the obsession and addiction to something?
All right, Lynette, where do we draw the line between obsession and addiction?
Yes, Zawadi. Obsession usually is more about